the caste system is an evil. Okay, like the sati system or the parda system, where some of the evils, social evils, similarly caste system is also a social evil to our society. Okay, and it has been seen that where in Bombay the Paramhans Mandali was founded in 1840 to work for the abolition of caste, and many reformers and members of Reform Association were from the upper caste. That means they had taken the initiative to start with the abolition of caste system. Often in secret meetings, these reformers were used to violate caste taboos on food and health. For instance, we can see that the higher caste people did not sit and eat with the lower caste people, isn't it? But they started, the upper class people or the upper caste reformers, those who belong to the upper caste, they started violating these caste taboos. They did not persist on the maintaining of the taboos, like not eating with them. They started eating with them food and also touching them, so that they could get rid of the hold of caste prejudice in their lives that they had seen for time immemorial. Clear? So there were also other who questioned the injustice of the social order. Like we saw the Christian missionaries came up in the previous chapter. We had seen the civilization of the nation, education given by the English people. What did they do? They started converting the people into Christians, and Christian missionaries began setting up the schools for tribal groups and the lower caste people. Okay, children from the lower caste who were not allowed to get their education in the schools with the higher caste people or the higher class people, they were given an opportunity by the Christian missionaries. So at that time, the poor began leaving their villages to look for jobs also, for opening up in the cities. And there was work in factories that they were coming up, and jobs in the municipalities. And we have read about these things in previous classes also. What is it about? In chapter 6 or in previous years also we had seen. And think of the new demands of labor was created due to the industrial revolution that was taking place in India as well as abroad. And drains had to be dug, that means for a better sewage system. When there was urbanization, when there was a city coming up, what was needed? Along with buildings, roads, what had to be done? Good drainage system should be there. Okay, for good drainage system, they required coolies or diggers or bricklayers, and sewage cleaners and sweepers, they were also required. And where did this labor come from? They came from the villages. They started migrating from the villages to the city area or the expanding cities for the work, as there was a demand for labor. Okay, some went to work in the plantations in Assam. What plantation goes on in Assam? Even they went
coffee.
Tea. Okay, coffee is in Karnataka and Kerala area, in the laterite soil, where there is laterite soil. There coffee plantation takes on. And in Assam we have tea plantation. Even abroad, like Mauritius, Trinidad and Indonesia, people went in search of work. Poor people from low class castes saw this as an opportunity, so that they can get above the oppressive and they can have a hold on the oppressive caste landowners and exercise over their lives, and daily humiliation they suffered, they were trying to get out of it. If they had a good income, what would be the consequence? What would be the effect? What would be the effect? They would be having a good standard of living. If they have a good standard of living, they cannot be getting oppressed by the people or the big landowners or zamindars, those who were suppressing them. They will get education, they will become aware of the social evils, they will be aware of the opportunities that they are getting in the society around them. Okay, so there were other jobs also, like the army. We know that English people were recruiting people in the army for the lower post. Though it was for lower post, still they were educating and getting them recruited in the army. And a number of Mahar people, that is a category of people, they were considered as untouchables, and they also found job in the Mahar regiment. That means the army regiment, like we have the Sikh regiment, Gurkha regiment, Kurg regiment, JK regiment. Similarly, there was a Mahar regiment in which the people from Mahar group of people, that is their caste, which were considered to be untouchable, got the job. So, who is the father of the Dalit movement? Can you name him? The leader of the Dalit movement?
Dr. B.R. Ambedkar.
Yes, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar also got his education from an army school. Okay, because they were not allowed to go and sit with the general people or the students who were belonging to the higher caste. They were made to sit near the door. And how humiliating it is, isn't it? So what did he do? He went and joined the army school, which a new opportunity was given to them for education. So when such people get education, what happens? Slowly they start demanding for equality and justice. So in the second half of the 19th century, we see that people from the non-Brahmin caste began organizing movements. Against what? Against caste discrimination, and demanded that there should be social equality and justice. They all did not belong to the Brahmin group. They belonged to the non-Brahmin group, like we saw Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He is also non-Brahmin. And Satnami movement started in central India. Central India means area around, in and around Madhya Pradesh and now Chhattisgarh. And it was founded by Ghashi Das, who worked among the leather workers and organized a movement to improve their social status. So leather means, where does the leather come from?
Skin of dead animals.
Yes, skin of dead animals. So that means they were considered to be of lower caste because they were handling such things. And in Eastern Bengal, Haridas Thakur Matwa sect worked among the Chandala cultivators. They are also one low caste, or they were also considered low untouchables at that time. And Haridas questioned Brahminical text that supported the caste system. And in what we say the present day Kerala, a guru from Izhava caste, he was from Izhava caste, Sri Narayana Guru. He said that ideals of unity for his people. And what he declared, that there is only one God, one caste, and one God for humanity, humankind. Okay, we are the people who are discriminating ourselves into one category or one caste or one sect or one religion. We are the people who are distributing ourselves. Is it God that he said that you become Hindu or you become Muslim or you become Christian? No. We people, the people in the society, they are treating this inequality among ourselves. So what did he say? Oru jati. Oru means one. Jati means one caste. Oru matam. Oru matam means one religion. And Oru daivam manushyanu. That means one God for humanity. And what is that God for humanity? That is humankind, that is humanity itself. Manushyatya. Isn't it? If we do not have humanity, if we do not have empathy for others, sympathy for others, we are not human beings. We are same as animals. They do not have feelings for other animals. That is why they bite, they eat the flesh of other animals, they scratch, they drag, they do such things. If we do such things, that means we are not having humanity among us. Isn't it? So all the sects were founded by leaders who came from non-Brahmin caste. If we say take their name, it may be Sri Narayan Guru, it may be Haridas Thakur, or it may be Ghasi Das. They were all belonging to non-Brahmin castes. Okay, and what they tried to do after they got education, they tried to change that system of what? Or the practices which were provoked to contempt the dominant castes. They tried to create a sense of self-esteem. What do you mean by self-esteem? It is self-respect among the subordinate castes. Yes, they said that nobody is big or nobody is small. There should not be any discrimination on the basis of caste, saying that he is or she is of a lower caste, he or she is of a higher caste. There should not be any discrimination on basis of caste, because caste will, what will it do? It will decrease the self-esteem. It will decrease the dignity of the people. Okay, so name some of the non-Brahmins who worked for the upliftment of the society or discrimination to stop. Yes, Haridas Thakur. Yes.
Ma'am, Haridas Thakur.
Yes, and Haridas Thakur. And in class 6 or 7, I think so, you had studied about Gulamgiri. Who had written Gulamgiri?
Jyotirao Phule.
Yes, yes, it is Jyotirao Phule. He was also from a low caste, and he was a low caste leader. Okay, he studied in schools set up by whom? By the Christian missionaries. And then growing up, he developed his ideas about the injustice of caste society. He set out to attack the Brahmin claims, and that they were superior and the other people were not. They were inferior. They were Aryans, so they were very much superior. And the Aryans were said to actually belong to the foreign or the Middle East and the Central Asia. Okay, and they had come into India. They are outsiders, or we can say the upper caste people are outsiders. And the tribal people, those who belong, why they are called Adivasi, do you know? Adivasi comes from the word Adhivasi, means they belong to this land. Okay, this is their land. We are outsiders. The Aryans are the outsiders who have come and have settled down and are saying ourselves as superior caste or superior people with superior dominance over the inferior people, that is the scheduled tribe people. So according to Phule, he said that upper caste had no right to their land and power. Yes, we are outsiders. The land belongs to the Adivashis or the Adivasis, and in reality the land belonged to them. They are the indigenous people. That means whom we call the low caste people, they are actually the people of this land. So this land belongs to them. We have just taken away their power, their land, and we have become powerful. Okay, and he also claimed that before Aryan ruled, there existed a golden age when warrior peasants tilled the land and ruled the Maratha countryside in just and fair ways. He proposed that the Shudras means the laboring caste or the lower caste, and the Atishudras are the untouchables, and Shudras are the lowest category of the caste system, and should unite and challenge this system of what? This system of caste discrimination. So they should come together. They should not fight among themselves, but come together, saying that we are above you. Untouchables will say, will be criticized, and the Shudras will say we are above you. They will be suppressing them. No, they are both facing that, both category are facing some problem. So they should come together and fight for the one cause, that is what? To face the discrimination, caste discrimination that they were facing. Okay, and there was a Samaj called the Satya Sodhak, which was founded by Phule. So what was the Samaj that was founded by Phule to propagate caste equality? It was said to be Satya Sodhak Samaj. Okay, an association that was founded by Phule for the betterment or the caste, removing of the caste inequality and propagating, or that means propagating means what? Saying or fighting for one cause, that is caste equality. Okay, any doubt till now? And in 1873 he also wrote a book named Gulamgiri. Gulam means what? Slave, and Gulamgiri means slavery. And some 10 years before this, there had been the American Civil War, and which had fought for the end of slavery in America, because people from Africa were taken by the Europeans to America to do plantation work, and they were working as slaves. Okay, and they had a fight against this, or to end the slavery in America they were fighting. That was called the American Civil War. And Fule dedicated his book to all those Americans who had fought to free the slaves, and thus establishing a link between the conditions of lower caste in India and the black slaves in America. So whom did he compare them to? He compared this lower caste people of India to the people, or the slaves, black slaves, that those who were taken from Africa, or the Negroes, those who were taken from Africa by the Europeans as slaves and sold in the plantation work in America. For the plantation work in which place? In America. Okay, and this shows that Fule extended his criticism of the caste system to argue against all forms of inequality. He was concerned about the plight of the upper caste women also, the miseries of the laborer, the humiliation of the lower caste. It was not only that only particular group of the untouchables and the lower caste he was taking into contest. He was also fighting for the upper caste women and the miseries of the laborer who were coming from the village area and working in the cities for the upliftment of the city, or the urbanization that was taking place in those days. And the movement of the caste reform was continued in the 20th century by the Dalit leader famous as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in Western India. Western India means part of Maharashtra, Gujarat, that is Mumbai Presidency. It was then called Mumbai Presidency. The Saurashtra, that means Gujarat, Maharashtra, and parts of Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, that were coming under that Western India. And in South India we see that E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar is in the south. He worked for the upliftment of the lower caste people. Okay, so in earlier days we know that the lower caste people were not even allowed to enter the temples. Okay, there was a movement against that also, that they could enter the temples. Nowadays every family or every people from each and every caste can enter the Hindu temples, except the Muslims and the Christians, they can enter it. So Ambedkar, as we have discussed earlier also, he was born into a Mahar family and he got his education in army school. And as a child he had experienced a lot of inequality and lot of humility from the upper class people. They were not allowed to drink water from one well. They were not allowed to sit with the children of the upper caste for the education. And after finishing his school, he got fellowship, that means scholarship, to go to US for his higher studies. And when he returned in 1919, and he wrote extensively about the upper caste power in the contemporary society. That means how they were being humiliated by the upper caste people. So in 1927, Ambedkar started a temple entry movement in which the lower caste people, especially the Mahar caste followers, participated, because he was the leader of Mahar. He belonged to a Mahar family, so Mahar caste people followed him or participated in his movement. And Brahmin priests were outraged. That means they got angry on the Dalits because they used the water from the temple tank. But Ambedkar led such three movements, one for the temple entry between 27 to 35. Okay, and his aim was to make everyone see that they are all equal irrespective of any caste. So power of caste prejudice within the society, he wanted to end up this caste prejudice. What do you mean by prejudice? Making your own opinion. Making your own opinion. Okay, that is called the prejudice, and he wanted to end it up. The non-Brahmin movement, that is a non-Brahmin movement, as we saw many non-Brahmins like Haridas, Ghashidas, and who else participated? Yes. Haridas Thakur and Jyotirao Phule, they all participated in the movement. And the initiative came from those non-Brahmin castes that had acquired access to education, wealth and influence. That means education plays a very important role in the changing of the society or not? What do you conclude then? Education plays a very important role, right? So they argued that Brahmins were heirs of Aryan invaders from north who had conquered southern lands from the original inhabitants of this region. And the indigenous Dravidian races, Dravidians, the South Indians, are said to be from the Dravidian race. And they also challenged the Brahminical claims to power. They said, only Brahmins, why do they have power to everything, access to everything? Why not the lower caste people? They started questioning. And leaders like, or social reformers like E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, or he is also said Periyar. Okay, Periyar, as he was called, came from a middle class family. And he had been an ascetic in his early life, and he studied Sanskrit scriptures. Though he did not belong to upper caste or the Brahmin caste, he studied Sanskrit scriptures carefully. And he became also a member of the Congress. And to leave it in disgust when he left that Congress party, when he saw that there was a distinction between the people of the upper caste and the lower caste, even in the INC, that is Indian National Congress. Okay, they were not allowed to go for the elections. The sitting arrangement was made in such a way that the upper caste people were sitting from at a distance from the lower caste. This all he did not like. So he quit that, he left that party, that is Congress, only to, as he could not tolerate the discrimination going on in the Congress. So he founded the self-respect movement. Movement started by him is self-respect. That means their own dignity, they have their own self-respect. It was hurt when they are discriminated. And he argued that the untouchables were the true upholders of the original Tamil and the Dravidian culture, which has been subjugated by the Brahmins, as the Indians were subjugated by the Britishers. They were the dominions. They unko daba ke rakhe the Britishers. In the same way, the Dravidians or the lower caste people or the indigenous people of India were subjugated by the upper caste people. Okay, upper caste in the sense the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas, who considered them better than the lower caste or people. So he felt that all religious authorities saw social division and inequality as God-given. So the untouchables had to free themselves, therefore, from all religions in order to achieve social equality. So how can that be achieved? They just can't sit back at home and say that we want equality. They have to fight for that. They have to raise their voice. They have to come to the streets to voice themselves, isn't it? Then only it is possible. So he was an outspoken critic of Hindu scriptures, and especially the codes of Manu and ancient lawgivers and the Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana he had criticized. He said these texts had been used to establish the authority of Brahmins over the lower caste and the domination of men over women. That means not only the lower caste people were dominated by the upper caste people. In this text we also see that men are more powerful than the women, isn't it? So that is why Draupadi had been humiliated in the Kuru Sabha, right? That, what does that show? That shows the male domination. There was no woman to protest that, no, this should not be done in the public. A lady should not, that means she was a queen. She should not be tortured mentally and physically in such a way in front of all the public. That shows that there was a men domination, right? And wherever we see the kings, there were more kings. Do we listen to in this textbooks or the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, do we hear of very powerful women? Is there any description of women anywhere? No, they give more importance to men
No
only.
caste.
Isn't it? Men are given more importance. The kings, the princes, the story revolves around them only. Right? So these assertions did not go unchallenged. The forceful, that means if somebody is speaking against your religion, will not the other group come against you? Will not they fight that upper caste nationalist leader? Will they take this criticism very easily? They will react or not? Obviously, it is very much obvious they will come up and retaliate against such words. So Sanatan Dharma Sabhas and Bharat Dharma Mahamandal in North and associations like the Brahman Sabha in Bengal, what did they do? They criticized. They could not take up this criticism against the upper caste people. And the object of these associations was to uphold the caste distinctions. That means they were rigid on it, that no, there should be caste distinction. And show how this was sanctified by the scriptures. They gave, that was sanctified means they gave the example of the scriptures, that yes, in Mahabharata, Karna is being discriminated because he was belonging to a lower caste. That is very much visible in the Mahabharata, or in the Bhagavad Gita. It has been very much seen that there is discrimination, isn't it? So debates and struggles over this caste continued and beyond colonial period, and they are still going on in our times. Even at our times, if we see our orthodox people in the family itself, we see the older persons who have been into this system. They have seen this among their ancestors. They still continue it. But now education to this era generation, that you and me are saying that no, we should not go for discrimination. There is no point in discriminating people. We are all same. We are all equal, irrespective of any caste or religion. Isn't it? So some reform movement was organized by the Brahmo Samaj, and it prohibited all forms of idolatry. Idolatry means do not pray any idols like or statues, and sacrifices. That means giving sacrifice of animals, that was said to be, that was prohibited by Brahmo Samaj, and it believed in the Upanishads and forbade its member from criticizing other religious practice. You do your religious practice, never mind, but do not criticize other religion. Okay, and from there the root of secularism comes into our society, isn't it? It critically drew upon the level ideals of religion, especially Hinduism and Christianity, looking at their negative and positive dimensions. Every religion has some negative and positive dimension. So always take up the positive thing, then our society can be positive. Then we see the Desrosiers and Young Bengal. Vivian Desrosiers, a teacher of Hindu College, Calcutta, in 1820 promoted radical ideas and encouraged his people to question all authority. That means even at that time in European countries, what was going on? Renasa. Renasa means revival of the olden logical questions were being asked to the authority. Okay, and such movement started in India also, and it was started by whom? Henry Louis Vivian Desrosiers, and he started the Young Bengal movement. And his students attacked tradition and custom. Attacked in the sense they questioned why is it so? Why the sati system is going on? Why our custom is superstitious? Okay, and he also demanded education for women and campaigned for the freedom of their thought and expression. That is how we got in our fundamental rights what? Freedom of expression. We have got it or not? So these ideas always came from the past. The constitution that has been framed is not of one day or one person. It is the idea of generations together coming. The better things, the positive things has been taken up from our past. Then next is the Ramakrishna mission and Swami Vivekananda. We know Ramakrishna Parahansa, who was Swami Vivekananda's guru, isn't it? And he stressed the ideal of salvation through social service. That means he said that we can achieve salvation or moksha or nirvana. That means we can get rid of that cycle of birth and death if we do social service. Okay, service to mankind is service to God. What did he say? Service to mankind is service to God. And in the parliament, World Parliament of Religion that took place in Chicago in 1893, Swami Vivekananda, he also gave a speech which established the spiritual preeminence of the Vedanta philosophy on the global scale. That means Vedanta doesn't discriminates, or it is not about criticizing any religion. It says it is only for the betterment of the people. So he was extremely pained of the poverty, the misery of his countrymen. He firmly believed that reform could become successful only by uplifting the conditions of the masses. If the mass, the general people are at a higher level, they get their education, they have a good life, standard of living, then only the whole of the world can develop. And he confines there that religion of the kitchen, okay, and come together in the service of the nation. So by sending out this call, he made a signal contribution to the nationalism of India. His sense of nationalism was not narrow in its conception. What was it? He was convinced that many of the problems facing the mankind could only be overcome if the nation of the world comes together on equal footing. That means he wanted a world to come together, all the nations to come together for one cause. Okay, and his exhortation to the youth, he wanted the youth, he knew the youth has the power to do it. He wanted to unite them on the basis of common spiritual heritage and the symbol of a new spirit and the source of strength for the future. So who is the future? If we say who is the future, our future, you people, you children are the future. If you have good qualities, if you have moral values, then our next generation, coming up generation will be better than this. Isn't it? That is why we are getting education. Then another Samaj was there, that is the Prarthana Samaj, and it sought to remove the caste discrimination or restriction, abolished child marriage, and it also encouraged the education among the women. It wanted to ban the widow remarriage, and its religious meeting drew upon Hindu, Buddhist and the Christian texts. So what did it come in? What was the conclusion of that Samaj? It was taken, some part was taken from Hinduism, some from Buddhism and Christianity. That means every positive things, every positive dimensions were taken from this literature.